Good evening, everyone. What a wonderful, long evening. And I really appreciate your hanging in there with me. I'm Helen Head. I have the joy of recognizing Representative Maxine Grad, who is this year's winner of Emerge's highest honor, the CUNY Achievement Award. I had the opportunity to serve with Maxine for 16 of the 22 years she served in the Vermont House. Maxine landed on the Judiciary Committee the biennium after the passage of civil unions. After 2 years, she became vice chair and then chair in 2015. Maxine was a tireless advocate of policies to make Vermont a safer and more equitable state. She advanced bills that addressed domestic, sexual, and gun violence, focusing both on enhancing victims' rights and ensuring fair consequences to those who get caught up in the criminal justice system. Under Maxine's leadership, we've seen passage of vital policy initiatives related to reproductive liberty, Vermont's parentage and adoption laws, and much more. So what I'm going to do tonight is share with you some of the praise and stories from members of the legislature, past and present, about Maxine. Maxine created a warm and welcoming atmosphere for all in committee, regardless of party affiliation, using her quiet, deliberative, respectful style and exceptional active listening skills to guide proceedings with an even hand. Maxine loves to dance. In committee, she likened her role as chair to that of a choreographer. She would choreograph the work and then guide the performance, first in the committee room and then on the floor of the House. We remember the fresh flowers that Maxine brought into the committee room every week. Sometimes non-judiciary members would step into the committee just to gaze at the flowers and take a few deep breaths. House and Senate leaders sometimes have prickly relationships. Not so much with Maxine. Early on, she and her Senate committee counterpart bonded over Maxine's puppy. Maxine was the only legislator that I recall serving while she was pregnant. She was an inspiration and a role model, always putting family first, taking time away to tend to family needs. The gun safety debate brought credible bodily threats to Maxine as her home address was circulated over social media. When school children visited to voice concerns about gun violence, Maxine urged them to write their messages on the committee's whiteboard. She insisted that the messages stay up through the session over objections from those who wanted those messages removed. I'd like to close with two especially memorable quotes, one from a Republican and one from a Democrat. Maxine was always true to her beliefs, a strong advocate for women's issues and victims' issues. She had enough pragmatism to work with others to get most of what she believed in, even if all of what she believed in was not on the table. And then she quickly gave me a lot of responsibility where I was ready for it, but never let me get out on thin ice, which I might have done without her guidance. She often shared her thinking and her experience with me about how we should navigate difficult issues and tricky moments in the committee process and even asked me to help think those through. And on one of the biggest issues to come before her committee, where I had a different view than she in House leadership and our party, she only asked why, and then let me go my own way. She could easily and justifiably have handled it much differently. I will forever be grateful that she didn't. We are forever grateful to Maxine for her remarkable service. And as y'all might have heard at the very beginning, Maxine couldn't be here tonight because she's home recovering from COVID. And true to form, before the toughest symptoms of COVID set in, she wrote and recorded the remarks she'd make tonight if she were here in person. And I believe we have that recording.
Good evening. I am sorry I cannot be with you tonight. Thank you to my colleague, former Representative Helen Head, for your introduction. Your leadership on issues of women in the military, housing, and economic development have improved the lives of many Vermonters, especially women. Your role of introducing me tonight adds deep meaning to this incredible honor. Thank you to Emerge Cabinet for your recognition of my leadership and Executive Director Elaine Haney for facilitating my remarks tonight. I also want to thank House Speakers Kowinski, Johnson, Smith, and Symington for your confidence in my leadership and your appointments that helped pave the way to this award. Thank you to my family for giving me the support to lead in the State House and our Moortown House. My deepest gratitude goes to Governor Madeline Kunin. I am so grateful to accept this award carrying your name. I remember how honored I was when you appointed me to Vermont's first Victim Compensation Board back in 1990. While at the time I didn't consider a political life for myself, I know you did, Governor, as you have for so many women. I can't help but think that your sound fiscal leadership that implemented a hiring freeze serendipitously helped direct my political life. At that time, I was a top candidate for a position at Vermont's Office of Legislative Counsel. I was offered a temporary position there to gain experience in the event the hiring freeze was lifted. Upon accepting the job in 1986, I was assigned to staff the House and Senate Judiciary Committees, only to be elected to the House and appointed to the Judiciary Committee in 2001, where I served my entire legislative career. Governor Kunin, I am so grateful for you helping me emerge in my political career. Emerge's mission to, quote, increase the number of Democratic women leaders from diverse backgrounds in public office positions, end quote, is critical, especially now. The issues many of us have provided leadership on for decades are not only still barriers to women's autonomy, but have resulted in the increased deprivation of women's liberties and the criminalization of women's healthcare choices. Nationwide, women suffer through an increased lack of access to justice, due in part to laws enacted in states where the majority of voters support reproductive and economic justice. Without women being at the table, childcare, paid family and medical leave, flexible workplaces, reproductive, economic, and environmental justice will continue to be challenges to women's autonomy. I think of some of the laws I helped pass as examples of what happens when women leaders are at the table and bring forward issues that are vital to women. I championed laws addressing breastfeeding in public and the workforce because of my lived experience as a mother and an elected official. Our son was born during the 2004 legislative session, and there were very few places for me to comfortably feed him or pump milk. Because I was at the table, I was able to advance important health and economic policies. If more women served in public office and more protections for breastfeeding and birthing persons existed, would the recent infant formula shortage endanger the maternal and child health of so many, especially those of BIPOC women and children? As a legislative leader, I and Emerge Cabinet member and former Representative Sue Minter championed teen highway safety laws. At the time, we were mothers of teen drivers, and cell phone use while driving contributed to an increased rise in teen highway injuries and fatalities. Conversely, in 2002, as a mother of 2 teenage daughters, I knew that passing a law requiring parental notification for a minor's abortion would do nothing to protect my daughter's health and safety, or my role as a mother. We must not only get Vermont women elected to all levels of leadership, but we must also continually sustain their elections. As Emerge Director Elaine Haney wrote, quote, "We must normalize majority women's leadership," end quote. It is an honor to be on the program tonight with Emerge Vermont alum Senator Becca Balint, who will be the first woman to represent Vermont in Congress. What an incredible moment this is. However, we cannot stop there. We need a majority of diverse Vermont women leaders. Vermont is not accepted from the misogyny, xenophobia, racism, transphobia, homophobia, and anti-Semitism we see on the national level. My leadership in reproductive justice, sexual assault, domestic and firearm violence prevention, and LGBTQ+ issues recognizes that we must improve in these areas. According to the Vermont Network Against Sexual and Domestic Violence, recently Vermont has ranked in the top 10 states per capita for rates of domestic violence homicide, the majority by firearms. We need Vermont women leaders who will champion laws and recognize that many incarcerated women are survivors of human trafficking and domestic violence. We need women leaders to continue justice reforms using a public health response and eliminating crimes like bad checks that criminalize women's life situations and contribute to a life stifled by a criminal record that is irrelevant to who that woman is and could become. We need Vermont women leaders who know that abortion care is health care and that we won't have reproductive justice until all persons seeking abortion care have true, meaningful, and unfettered access. With Emerge and all it offers to women candidates, we will get there. I thank Governor Kunin, Emerge, its cabinet, alum, and supporters for lifting women up so we can become our authentic selves and lead. Thank you.
Isn't she remarkable?